Welcome back to Rabbit Troop Sucks. You're gonna have a holly diggity of a time tonight. We've already defined the energy levels that we're gonna be bringing it to. You thought X was gonna be bringing it to you? Rabbit Troop Sucks only has one more episode, which is this, of the year 2022, the Lord's 2022.
Wow.
So if you knew about the soups and salads we were just talking about, you know.
Yeah, you buckle in for what I suspect is going to be a wacky episode of Rabbit Troop Sucks. We here are at full readiness.
Yes, we prepared. Full readiness initiated, like the Power Rangers.
And this will be a very silly podcast about a very serious movie.
Well, as always, I'm Paul. Next to me is Mike, and Lamar is joining us for our review on Miracle Mile from 1988. According to IMDb, a young man hears a chance phone call telling him that a nuclear war has started and missiles will hit his city in 70 minutes. And there's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of questioning. There's a little bit of comedy. There's a lot of romance. There's a little bit of narration. There's a lot of things going on for everyone. I had never heard of this movie in my life until sometime earlier this year. And before we even launched the podcast, Mike and I watched it, or maybe simultaneously. It was like around the time. Anthony Edwards was here. I think most people would know Anthony Edwards from Gilbert from Revenge of the Nerds. One day I say we watched Gotcha, which is a weird paintball shout-out movie, but then with espionage. They also probably know him from ER and, many, many other things as well. There's a slew of people that you'd recognize in this film, but damn it, it's the end of the world, and to quote REM, and I feel fine. So fine.
You're all going to feel fine.
You're all going to feel fine as we rocketed it into the end of the year, and hopefully you're listening to this. I hope you're uncorking your champagne bottles and you're like, oh my God, Rabbit Troop Sucks. We're counting down with you. I understand. I hope you dressed up. We're all wearing suits. Lamar is currently shining his own shoes. It's amazing.
True. I'm loving the energy here. A hot open on this podcast.
A hot open for a cold night.
Yikes. That's it's either on the side of a box of tea or like a confession in Law and Order.
It's going to be both.
Well then.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to this review. I didn't hear about this movie until pretty much tonight before we reviewed it.
Right. I also feel like Paul didn't tell you what movie we were watching tonight until it started happening.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true. Until
true.
the credits rolled, and I didn't have a lot to prepare going into this. But
this movie is better gone into dry. You don't want to know what's happening.
It is. I do recommend not doing any research into this movie if you're going to go into it dry.
Yeah, the director is Steve DeJarnot, or Jarnot. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. But yeah, I looked up what the director did, and I'm kind of impressed with a couple of things, so I kind of wish Rami was here. Rami, if you're listening, one big thing the director is noted for, really a lot of writing credits. Cherry 2000 is a big one. But X-Files. Rami is a huge fan of X-Files. We've all watched the X-Files in this room. And a big one for me, which I would totally do on this podcast, is Strange Brew. He wrote Strange Brew, and that was awesome for me. I was like, oh my God, what?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, X-Files, Cherry 2000, and Strange Brew. Like, I kind of want to be the director's friend. The director is welcome on the show to help me pronounce his last name and just to chat with us at any point in time.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell us some of his influence in this movie from X-Files episodes that he directed. That you can definitely feel it.
Were there any standout episodes that he did? Any that I would recognize?
I didn't look it up too much. Oh yeah, and I have on my notes on my like Anthony Edwards, also Goose and Top Gun. I knew there was like a big one that I was just kind of forgetting off the top of my head. But yeah.
Okay.
No, got some other people in this that will unfold.
Yeah, they will unfold.
So the movie starts off with a little bit of overview and evolution. Humans did stuff and they evolved from things, and now this is where we're at. And this is a theme that is noted at the beginning, Never really brought up again. Thought of at the end to tie some things in. You can skip right over. I absolutely forgot this is how this movie opens.
The beginning of this movie sucks.
Yeah,
it's like 5 minutes of exposition and boring nonsense.
Yeah, you'd be in like Ben Stein's science room in the Wonder Years. Like evolution started with man, and then there was like some like terrible animations and pictures. It was awesome. So
right.
for the big test.
We find out Harry is. I'm gonna do names tonight. I'm gonna give it a whirl. Harry is in. It's Harry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's Harry.
Okay, he's in a museum. I don't know why, but he's in a museum watching one of those like for kids demonstrations, and he is also talking over this whole scene. Like, I mean, not. It's like he's not talking. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, I want to note.
Okay.
I thought he was like the paid curator of the situation. That he's leading.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you think he's leading a tour guide and kids groups, etc.
Right, he's like interacting with people's children.
But he's not, so we're later told that he's just playing like the trombone in like a jazz band that's touring
he's
New
in
York.
like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy or
Not New
something.
York.
He's kind of dressed like a
California.
curator, though. I would have taken it that he was.
Well, he was dressed like a huge nerd. Yeah.
Right, but he's like interacting. He's like, kids, and he's like making these jokes. And I even made a note like, I bet he makes those jokes every day. And then I'm like, oh wait, he doesn't work. This guy doesn't work here.
Right, but the whole time there's just him doing voiceovers like, I'm just lost in a sea of blah blah blah. It's taken me 30 years to find the right girl,
Right.
and now I can't find her anymore. La Brea Tar Pits. I don't know.
And well, much like the evolution in and out that we see, that narration is only going to come back at the very end. That was like, oh, Anthony Edwards, we have you on contract. You owe us 5 more hours. It is going to be in a vocal booth. We're out of time. Well, I didn't do the whole movie. Well, I'm not paying you more.
Right, but he's in the museum and fucking with people's kids. But he's also
That doesn't sound right.
Meeting. Oh, okay, sure. Sure. Whatever. Shut up. But he's also meeting a woman who is also at the museum for reasons that are never explained.
That's right, wasn't it?
And not really. They're just stalking each other
Right,
like weirdos in the museum.
Yeah, I also thought that she
It's a little cat and mouse,
was
but it's a
like
little
a
cat and cat.
curator or like there with kids on a field trip, but she's also just like blending into the background, and you can't tell if she works there or she's with someone. So they're just both there randomly bothering people.
Yeah, and like spying on each other and making cutesy faces, and the voiceover continues like, oh, you never find a girl my age who knows who like Jimmy Spatz is, or what I'm guessing was like a musician.
So these jazz musicians.
Yeah.
That no one knows. Yeah. So I mean, I know this is not really like in fashion right now, but we're starting a new year, 2023, and I say come to the Denver museums. We have plenty of beautiful museums, and play little peekaboo games with strangers. I think it's going to be a hot hit. It's like laser tag without having to buy something. You peek around the corner, you make faces at children, you whisper little nothings to people at museums like, I'm gonna kill you in your purse, and you walk off. People love it. It's just like an interactive like exhibit that we put on here, and
Right.
And that's what I do. And then he buys a prism cube or a little
Who the fuck
piece of
knows?
glass. I don't know. like out of all the things that a kid or anyone would want. Sorry, I just thought back to like being a child at these museum gift shops. Like, hey, like I'm going for the ice cream, the dried ice cream, the astronaut ice cream. Duh. Like I'm going that 9 times out of 10. Stuffed animals, whatever. He picks up a stupid piece of glass. Like it is probably $30 in 1988, and it's a stupid piece of glass that he could just.
Well, that's because this guy is a fucking chode. At this point, there has still been no dialogue in this movie. We now cut to like he's playing his trombone at some kind of outdoor.
Oh, he was playing his trombone.
He was playing.
Right?
Okay, so what we find out maybe sort of is that he's a musician who's traveling to LA to play trombone in whatever band. He's staying in a hotel. Who the fuck knows? The voiceover continues like she's an old-fashioned girl. She brought her father to our date, and it's like her and her grandfather or something like watching him play trombone. It's fucking weird.
Oh, he watched him play trombone.
Yeah. Well, okay, and so let's continue with the sexual innuendo. We now have the first couple lines of the movie, and it's him, the grandfather, and this woman walking back to her apartment or whatever, and the grandfather's like, can I buy you kids a tube steak?
Wait, and I want to go back to one of his transitions of his narrations, as we said it, that comes and goes. And Mike is right, like, oh yeah, she was a like a simple woman, but with like future taste, like something like that. Like she's a connoisseur of all things. But he starts off with, "Fate's a funny thing." I'm like, "You piece of shit, shut up!" Like, are you serious? Like, and then he's like, "Destiny brought us together." But when your opening transition is "Fate's a funny thing," you keep that to yourself. You keep that so deep down, unless you're like 5 and under, then that's adorable. But like, if you're an adult saying that, like, that's when you're like, "That's awesome. I secretly dialed 911 on my cell phone while you told me that the cops are coming."
Also, it's worth
Fate is
pointing
funny.
out that this woman has the worst haircut I've ever seen.
She looks like Sting.
Even for the 80s. She has, so throwback
Like Sting
to
meets Bono.
Throwback to last week, she has the same haircut as the boy from Rare Exports.
I don't see the problem.
She has the haircut of a 12-year-old boy from Finland.
When you go to cost cutters, I don't. What's the problem?
It's like a terrible mullet transitions into like goes with their Gozerian kind of flat top thing. It's rough. It's not.
When you go to cost
becoming.
cutters and you have a coupon for a fin flat, you get a fin flat.
Okay.
Hashtag fin flat. They're gonna love us in Finland. We're gonna be blowing it up.
Yeah, we'll all get the haircut.
We won't know. Let's all do it together. I just want to go last.
First, then last.
Okay. So we're now talking. Grandfather's gone off to get tube steaks.
G1. Yes, this is G1. Grandpa. Yes.
Grandpa, and then the grandmother shows up.
Gotta get some fine tube steaks.
She does not say that. She's talking about some kind of health food casserole that she's made.
Oh, yeah, go up. He's heard all about the health food casserole. Just go upstairs and heat it up.
Yeah.
And the woman's like, "Well, here's the balloon."
Right,
Just
there's a balloon.
Like a senile old woman walking around with a balloon.
And then Harry's like, "Well, what about the old tube steaks?" And then we pan back over to the
Trombone.
grandfather off in the distance, and he just goes, "Ah!"
It's all trombones and tube steaks in this movie.
And we find out that the grandparents haven't spoken in 15 years, but they live next door to each other.
or like next door in buildings.
Yeah, it's like
buildings
two
next to-
buildings in the same like apartment complex.
It is 3 buildings in
Yeah,
LA. I have never
the fuck
personally,
knows?
outside of being at the LAX airports, I've never been to like the residential areas. But from my understanding, the 3 buildings that everyone lives at are just beautiful.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I have a question for you guys now.
Is it tube steak related?
It is no, it's not. How long? What has been the time duration of this movie so far? Like, did they meet this morning at a museum? Have we been watching like their relationship grow over a number of dates?
My guess is honestly this. This is 2 dates. There is the museum day, and then this is the next day.
So
okay, like if I really had to guess,
Museum day was like date 1.
Yeah, and then
this
it was
is
like
date number 2
Yes.
that she brought her fucking grandfather to.
because she also later says like she's gonna screw his brains out on date 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're
that's
about to
how
go
I
on date 3.
assumed that it was date 3.
Yeah.
Date number.
Because there's a lot, and I understand why Mike's asking because he doesn't know anything about her. Like he doesn't really know her last name, where she lives, a phone number. Like it's a lot of like mysteries.
Well, so when they're talking about where the grandparents live, she's like, "Oh yeah, my grandmother lives in this building, apartment 308. The key code to get in is this." And he's like, "Oh neat, where do you live?" She's like, "Somewhere else."
Another building.
Like she's being real dodgy about it.
Yeah,
Far
that
away, my
dodginess
friend.
was kind of alluding to maybe she was homeless or maybe she was somebody she didn't appear to be, like maybe rich princess, or I didn't know why she said it like that. Like, "Oh, I live in another."
Maybe because,
Far away.
but then like she's going to work. She's like a night waitress at a diner. And she's like, "I'll see you at 12:15. You better
see
take a
you at
nap
12:15. You
because
better
you're gonna
take a
need
nap."
all the energy you can get. Because I don't." She says, "I'm gonna like fuck the blue out of your eyes" or something like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a real sweet moment. But I mean,
it's a poem.
Was it that or something
It's pretty-
adjacent? Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty.
No one wrote
pretty
this down?
direct.
It's fucked something out of you.
I don't want the words in my own
It was a
handwriting.
third
Okay.
date. Yeah, there you go.
I don't need 15 years from now. My daughter's like picking up journals and like, "Oh my God, what are these things?" I'm like, "I swear to God, it was about the movie Miracle Mile."
Okay.
And she's like, "No," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's on a podcast." She's like, "Podcasts aren't even real. What are you talking about?" you've been in a room with no microphones talking to yourself for these last 15 years.
Paul, we're not real. None of this is real.
I know. Just like her haircut, that woman's haircut.
That was all too real. Okay.
Now, I want to make a side note.
Oh,
so I am actually reading compliments to myself in my notes. So I really feel good about that.
That's a weird flex.
Yeah, it's like, dear Paul, like, you son of a bitch, like, you did it this time. So there's a lot of kind of like almost non sequitur shots of nature sometimes, or like some transitional shots of like, hey, then I was gonna go meet her at the diner, but then you see like downtown LA and stuff, and this music keeps playing. It's like very rhythmic and it's very synthed out, and I'm like, wow. This totally reminds me of Tangerine Dream's soundtrack in Risky Business.
Yeah,
who did it? And then I saw it's Tangerine Dream. And I was like, hell yes to me. That's in my note. I'm showing it to Lamar. It is hell yes to me.
It really does say that, and he underlined it all.
I did underline it. Hell yes to me, because it sounds like it is cut right from Risky Business. So I like the soundtrack, the entirety of this film.
Yeah,
the soundtrack is good. Yeah,
soundscape soundtrack. It's not like songs or anything. It's more just to set the mood perfectly for this movie.
Yeah, like no heavy drums or anything like this. The percussion is more like a ticker, like like here and there, but just like really like.
Yeah, he said deep synth is like.
Yeah, but there's like a little bit of sense of urgency, like that ticker's going off. Like, hey, it's kind of night. It's a little more tranquil, but like you got to get going. I like it. For me, it works.
It fit this film perfect. It doesn't like I could see it set more for a science fiction film or something more not really fantasy but more sci-fi-esque, more of this apocalyptic movie. It fits pretty good. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely works.
How many trombone fantasies have you each had
Today?
Wow.
Was that a note to yourself as well?
No, I did not write hell yes to me on that one. But I thought it.
We're all thinking about it.
So they're going to their third date?
Yeah, they're going to the third date. Harry's at his hotel, like smoking a cigarette on the patio. There's more fucking exposition here. He flicks his cigarette into like a bird's nest, I think.
I think on a woman feeding pigeons.
Here's what
he's
happened.
like, okay, yeah.
He was smoking a cigarette and he flicked it, and then a bird took it.
The bird took it, yeah.
Carried it to a nest.
Okay, because in my notes, he's like chuckling to himself, and he glances down, and there's this woman feeding birds, and it looks like he flicks a cigarette right at this chick.
Kind of, because he takes like one or two drags at most of this kind of very lengthy penguin-esque cigarette, laughs, and just like doesn't like flick it like a smoker would, just kind of like underhand chucks it, just straight up like, there you go, cigarette, like off into the wilderness.
Be free. Yeah, and so I guess I was writing. I guess the bird takes it and brings it to its nest because the bird's fucking stupid.
And that's where that little flyer probably turned your head up and saw the flyer. That's where it happened.
Yeah, I saw the flyer. So he's back in his room. He's getting stoked up for his 12:15 date, and he sets an alarm. It's 9:00 now, I think. He sets an alarm, goes to sleep.
Yeah, I mean the plan was like go to the hotel, like take a shower, take a nap. Why are you going to bed at like 9:30 at this point in time? Like, my thought was like take your nap at like 6.
Well, he was with her probably, and he needed to rest up because she was gonna do dirty fucking on him later.
Well, I mean, I get so like when would she get there? So she probably started at like 4.
You know that I guess I didn't think about the time frame.
I didn't do the math, but I mean until just now. But like when they got there, it was super light out. I mean, it just looked like afternoon, and she's go shower and like stuff. I'm like, dude, like go eat lunch, take a nap, watch TV, take a nap.
Yeah.
Get up at like 7, probably take another shower, eat dinner, and then go see her. Like,
yeah, because if she's getting done at work at 12:15, she's probably getting there. Yeah, like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Yeah. She's not working like a 3-hour shift, maybe. I don't know. But it all goes to hell because the cigarette in the bird's nest it shorted out some wires and the power goes out in the hotel. And
Womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp womp. So eventually the alarm does go off, but it's like 3:45. He gets up. He's thinking like, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna get my dick wet. I'm putting on my tie." But like the TV has that like end of the night, like Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, I was trying to even figure out the phrase. I wrote the note like it was like the TV signal,
like radio pattern. I want to.
Yeah, like the test pattern that
test
comes on.
pattern. There you go,
Yeah, it's
after
like in Poltergeist, you know.
or if it's Back to the Future, then it's a Howdy Doody comes on.
It's Howdy Doody, yeah. But you know, now we kind of cut to the diner, whatever the fuck it's called. It has a really dope spinning hamburger sign. And what's this?
And a giant clock.
And a giant clock.
And
yeah.
I do want to note that clock because they do make subtle like panned shots to it.
This clock is like the countdown clock for this movie.
And it's kind of cool because it is kind of happening in real time. And I'm impressed with that because Harry does go in at one point in time. You see it. He comes out, and it's like 7 minutes have literally passed. And I had to think. I was like, yeah, that would probably be about 7 minutes. Good for you.
It's worth pointing out that like the duration of this movie is like the real time that this movie takes place.
Now,
in.
I would say
Like
at that
now.
Like
point,
starting now. Yes.
Yeah, so it's been like flashbacks and like, hey, the last maybe as Mike noted, like how long has this been going on? I'm guessing again 2 days,
Right.
Like,
So like
another day.
So starting at 3:45 when he realizes what time it is, this is kind of now happening in real time, with the exception being that the things that happen in this movie would take way longer than they take in this movie.
Yeah. So actually, it's kind of interesting that we're noting this all finding a place in sync, because I do feel, although very short-lived, his experiences in the diner totally reminiscent of the Twilight Zone. There's even a Twilight Zone episode where they're all at a diner. Like there's like all these people are characters. You get like the two construction workers. You get what appears the uptight businesswoman. You get this flight attendant that seems kind of like shady. You get the like stereotypical waitress and cook. You get this guy who's now about to get a phone call, and it's like now like tick tock, like things are happening. But this idea is also short lived.
Right.
But yeah, basically he rolls up and he knows that these people know who Julie is.
Right. Oh, one thing that should be mentioned because it does become a plot point later. So flashback to 12:16 when Julie walks out of the restaurant, all tarted up and ready to go. And there's no one there. She goes home and immediately is so distraught that she takes a Valium.
Oh yeah.
And goes to bed.
Yeah.
As one does. But yeah, so now it's like 4:00 in the morning. Harry's going into the diner and wondering like, hey, is she here? No, she's not. Okay.
Do you need anything? I'll take a gyro and eggs.
Yeah, he's got his gyro and eggs.
And a big tall glass of water.
Yeah. Yes. And like there's the high powered business lady. There's the weird
Denise Crosby.
Lieutenant Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
And they didn't do her makeup any differently.
No, she's the same person.
She's like, do you know who I am?
Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar from Star Trek Next Generation.
Like, this is just how I do my hair. You can fucking take it or leave it. So he orders his gyro omelet or whatever. And he goes outside and he tries to call her on the payphone. He leaves a message. He goes to buy a paper. But then as he's walking back, the phone starts ringing. And he's like, and he ends up picking it up. So in my mind, it's like, did he think she was calling him
That was
back?
my thought.
That was my thought.
Because he looked confused. But if I left someone a message and I was calling from a payphone.
But she knows where he's at. I thought of this too. Like, she's like, oh, he's at the diner, and if he's outside at the payphone, I might just know that
Right.
number.
Or maybe she's star 69. Is that a thing? Star 69 back then? Yeah.
Probably.
1988.
But again, but like maybe she even called the diner and they're like, oh, he's at the payphone. Like she
Yeah.
could have, like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
at this point in time, no one
in my-
outside of Tasha Yar has a mobile phone.
Right.
That was my thought too.
Because she's
that-
from Star Trek. So.
But so he picks up the phone, and now we have the conversation that leads to the plot of this movie.
This totally changes the entire tone of the film.
Correct. This is like a lighthearted kind of rom-com romp up until this point.
Yeah, the overdubbed narration's like, that was the best day of my life. I fell in love, and I was at a museum being a big old creep, and creep it up in her face, and I bought a piece of glass prism, and then, like, all that, like, that goes away, because he's like, I played jazz, and I wear knickknacks, and I'm a paddywhacks. And then,
he is a paddywhack.
and then all of a sudden he gets this call, and the call is super sad. It's like, Dad, remember the thing I told you about? Remember the thing I told you? Like, that is happening. And like Harry's like, what are you talking about? And it turns out this guy is calling from a military missile silo. And he's like, we've launched missiles. I'm in North Dakota, and they're going to get you in about 75 minutes. Like, basically, get the F out, go. I'm warning you. And like Harry's like, no, like, this is a prank. Like, you can't prank people like this. It's probably against the law. And he's like, no. And then he's like, wait, who is this? He's like, you've got to tell my dad. Like, I called the wrong area code. They confirm it's the right number, because I do note something. They confirm it's the right number. He's like, oh my God, I called the wrong area code. You've got to tell my dad. And then all of a sudden you're like, what are you doing in here? What's going on? He's like, I'm just fixing everything. The cable's okay. And then it's like, pop, 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 like a gun's like the dude's clearly gunned down. And then like weird people get on the line.
Yeah, there's like a stern voice like, who is this? Forget everything you just heard and go back to sleep.
Yeah, like that's super X-Files. I'm not surprised this guy wrote for the X-Files at all.
Right.
Because it's kind of like funny in like this really dark, like, are you serious way? Like, oh, okay, mister. Like, I'm just going to go back. Oh, those are gunshots and people screaming, right? Like, no problem. I'll just, I guess I had one too many at the diner with my gyro and eggs.
Well, speaking of one too many at the diner, so he hangs up the phone and he walks directly into the door like a fucking bird.
So this does come back around. I just know I'm going to forget because I didn't write the notes here.
Okay.
One of my thoughts was this is all going to escalate and get weird. But I'm like, but you knew the real number. You never tried to call that guy's dad. And I am sort of kind of half proven wrong later. But for the duration of most of this film, they do not try to relay that message. And
correct.
I thought that was kind of shitty because I was like, if you actually truly believe what's going on, some dude just called you, you basically got a lottery ticket, and that dude died to get you that message. And his last words to you were like, tell my dad. I'm like, oh man, that's messed up. Like,
his name was Chip, by the way.
It was Chip. Chips ahoy.
So he after he recovers from walking to the door, he goes back into the diner. The pervy construction guys are creeping on Tasha Yar real bad, but their game is super weak. The fat one's like, hey, didn't I see you in the naked bowling alley yesterday? And she's like, I don't even know what the fuck that means.
No one does.
No one does. He's trying to eat his eggs and gyro, but his nose is bleeding into it.
Yeah, that was really gross.
It was really gross. At first, like because you see the eggs and like there's dribbles of red. I was like, oh, he's throwing some Cholula on there.
No, but no, it's a cocaine nose.
Yeah, he has cocaine nose. Well, he probably broke it walking into that goddamn door.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now he kind of starts freaking out. He's like, the waitress comes to bring him coffee, and he grabs her arm.
He gets real grabby.
Yeah, he gets real grabby, and he's like, does anyone in here have a son in a missile silo? And everyone's like, okay. Tasha Yar is kind of like, her interest is peaked now.
Yeah, she's got like, a raised eyebrow. Like,
she's
missile
like,
silo.
Missile silo.
This isn't the typical hobo rant I'm used to at this diner.
But then the pervy construction worker chimes in, who the fuck is this bozo?
He's really freaking
Which
out.
Which is what everyone, is thinking. The owner of this diner, I think he's the owner. He was kind of like Fred. Yeah.
I assume he's the. Well, at first you see he is the cook, but after a couple lines, I assume he's the cook / owner of this establishment.
Yeah, he's not.
And I believe the place is called Jonathan's or something.
Something like that. Johnny's. Yeah, he's not stoked about this. He's coming out and like.
He gets all up in Tasha Yar's face. He's like, we talked about this, and you told me that if this ever happened, like, whoa.
Well, Tasha Yar is now on her cell phone. So Tasha Yar walks in, and she has this dope, like, silver briefcase, and she opens it up, and there's, like, a computer and a cell phone in it.
Lamar, metal briefcase, I'll meet you at midnight. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, this movie is highlighting, in 1988, if you've got a mobile cell phone, God damn, you could rule the world. Everyone believes everything. Like, she's like, even like part of this conversation is like, well, how would you know that? She's like, well, I dated a guy who knew some stuff. I was like, what?
So the owner like runs to the cash register, grabs a gun, and he just starts blasting.
Yeah, he jumps on the counter. When we normally take screenshots and post them on some of the, I don't know, the platforms, like what would be like, what's our main one that we post, like the web page through? Like Red Circle, like that shows like the picture, and then like we post on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. Those are the screenshots we take, and I was trying to get that one, but I just couldn't really get the angle where Fred just immediately he's done with. Fred goes from cooking gyro and eggs to I am on a counter with a handgun shooting it in the ceiling pretty quickly.
Yeah, it all escalates very quickly. Someone yells, "I knew they'd pull this shit." I think it was one of the construction workers. But yeah, so like this is now going from like there's a crazy guy in the diner ranting about this to, oh shit, Tasha Yar thinks this is legit.
Yeah, Tasha Yar's like is checking in on like senators and like,
Right.
well, why is one not here? And that's like super weird.
Right.
And then Fred is filling up a shopping cart with all of the canned food in the world, and I swear to God, 3/4 of it is canned corn.
Yeah, it's a lot of corn. Tasha Yar talks to Harry. She's like, repeat to me exactly what was said in this.
Thor Arthur?
Thor Arthur. He's like babbling, but he says something about Thor Arthur. And that's like her trigger. She's like, okay, that's code for something I know. This is the real deal. Fred, load up your catering van with creamed corn. We got to get the fuck to the helipad.
Yeah.
So Harry is like, no, I got to find the girl. Everyone else is getting into the catering van. Tasha Yar's like, we're going to Antarctica.
Yar.
Antarctica. Did I say that? Yeah.
Yar.
Yar. She's like, hey, random waitress and construction worker, make a list of scientists and leaders because we want to get them to come. And like, obviously the waitress from the night shift at the diner knows all the scientists and leaders.
I'm also pretty sure they're in a food truck.
Yeah, it's like a catering van.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
No, it's super weird. But
They can seat apparently like 12 of them.
yeah, they're all crammed in there. It's fine.
Yeah, later, I mean, yeah. So it's like clown cars of vehicles because later, what people are trying to put into a helicopter,
No.
it includes like 12 of those like comically office-sized water cooler jugs of water. Like I'm not even joking.
That's very
like that
accurate,
amongst
yeah.
other things. Like we've got to get that, and apparently boxes of chips that Kurt Fuller will tell us.
Yeah,
about.
well, we'll meet him later.
Yeah.
Harry's freaking out because he's got to go get the girl. So he's running to his car, which someone steals randomly.
Yeah. Okay. So this is when I know. Wait, I want to know 2 times because I don't take it all the time. So at 4:06. He's in the diner, and then he's like, his nose is like bleeding. And at, I just saw it. It was, oh no, I lost it. 4:14. They're back outside because they show the clock again.
Okay, so in 8 minutes, he's gone from receiving a phone call to rallying everyone to Antarctica in a food truck.
Right, but like it is happening in real time, and I am
Yeah.
very impressed. Like as disjointed as some of this movie is, like this is kind of impressive. That
Yeah.
like really things are picking up, and like once people realize what's happening, like no one's messing around. It's like tick tock, like we're totally doing it. And this is when I know that clearly everyone is involved. Like there's all these people. I'm like, oh, like no one decided like maybe we should call that other area code and let this dad know, or maybe we could find out more information about it because we do know the number. Just we got to plug in the other area code.
Right.
But no.
No one gives a
gotta
shit
get the
about this
corn.
guy. They're loading the cream corn up. I don't know who or why the car was stolen, but it was.
Do we grow corn in Colorado? Like is that like a thing?
I don't know.
I want to be sponsored by corn in Colorado. So if you are a farmer and harvester of corn, and for all of you who want to know more about baby corn, let's talk about it. So take that world.
We can put some free corn.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
No, I don't want that corn.
No one wants the corn. But we do.
Okay.
If we're sponsored by it. So.
No, we'll change our mind for money.
Imagine this. You know those ice luges like people do like vodka and tequila off of like the like drinking ice luges.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine just some nice cream corn going down one and yeah.
Is that the bodice shot you were telling me about earlier?
There was so much bodice talk about this. Bodice, not this novice.
Wow. Okay, so his car gets stolen, and he's like, I need a ride to pick up Julie in the catering van. And Harry's like, no. Oh, what's the owner's name?
Fred?
Fred's like, fuck, fine, get in the goddamn van. But he's not driving to Julie's house, and Harry realizes this. He's like, I'm not turning around, fuck you, you can jump out. So
Yeah.
he does.
Wait,
Which
yeah.
he does.
And he this is a really weird move. So he has a handgun. So he flings it like
Yeah, where did he
swat-
get the handgun
Yeah, I don't know. Like out of the van. and he fling. So I understand that, like, if you want the gun, you're not just gonna maybe jump with it because you might accidentally like shoot yourself.
Yeah, he just throws the gun out of the van.
But he throws it like it's not in his dominant hand, like he's swatting a fly. Like,
Right.
I'm like, I would maybe kind of like fling it out, like I'm throwing a frisbee a little bit. So imagine like you're jumping out of the back of a moving van. I'd probably frisbee throw it a little bit.
Yeah, it's really bad for guns to do that.
I would also kneel crouch and kind of jump out and kind of. I know this sounds crazy, but if you're into this, I would kneel.
Tuck and roll.
Yeah, I'd prepare to kind of like roll out of there. Anthony Edwards seems like he's at least 6 feet tall. He seems tall. He seems like 6 and like 4 or something. He just stands up erect and just jumps out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
dude, like,
Jackson's right out of there.
yeah. And also probably you could tell the driver, like, could you slow down for 5 seconds? He probably would have done it just to get you out of the car. Like, you could have said something, but he throws the gun out like it was made out of hot lava. And
Who was driving?
it was
It was
Fred.
Fred. Fred was driving.
It
Yeah.
was Fred. Okay.
Yeah, legit. Where did he get the gun?
I don't know.
Was it in
I
the
was
truck?
trying to figure
Oh no,
it
it
out.
was Fred's gun.
How did he?
I don't know why he got it from Fred,
Oh, yeah.
but that was the
that's
gun
right.
that Fred got from the cash
I
register.
don't remember. Admittedly, I thought the same. I was writing some notes.
Yeah, whatever. So he jumps out. He fucks his glasses all up. The gun's kind of broken a little bit. He's all fucked up. He's laying on the street, and there's a car coming. So he gets up and he points.
So you think?
Oh yeah. So the first car turns out to be 2 motorcycles. Fake out. But then there's another car
With Wilson.
with Wilson, and Harry.
Just like Home Improvements. He's going to improve your life.
He does briefly.
He dishes out some philosophies.
Is Wilson the guy in the backyard?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's also the tennis ball face. No, the
What?
volleyball face.
Oh, from the Tom Hanks.
yeah.
Okay.
From Wilson the movie.
Wilson the movie. Yeah.
Called Castaway,
Wilson.
too.
No,
Yeah, okay.
Wilson hand face.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
So,
So-
Mike, it's me, Wilson.
But
hand
he carjacks this fucking guy.
face. Wilson.
And during the carjacking, he kind of squeals off the road, and like his trunk pops open. It's full of car stereos. And this guy's kind of freaking out. He's like, what do you do? Like, what are we doing?
I'm pretty sure there's heavy-handed racism with when he talks about the companies that the guy's like, I got Sony, I got Mitsubishi, I got Flipshi, I got Bipshi. Like,
So I wrote a note about this. He's got Nakamichi.
Nakamichi.
Yeah, and so like 22-year-old me would have been fucking stoked about that because
Those were top quality.
that was the car stereo to have
Yeah.
back then. Yeah, I would have been all over that.
was it made in Nakatomi Tower?
Probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
You would have bought off of Wilson back in the day.
I mean, if
Yeah,
that
easy.
opportunity presented itself, 100%, I would have had a new car stereo in my 1987 Saab.
I assume because, Finland can't get on board with their coolness, but I assume most of Hollywood listens to Rabbit Troop Sucks, that Wilson, if you're out there listening to this, I assume you probably have access to real life stereos. So if you could write us and you want to be on here and you want to talk to Mike about that, let's work out a deal. That'd be great. We're open to guests.
I feel like that might be racist.
What?
What? You think he's still got those stereos?
Probably.
Yeah, he might. They're hard to move. No one wants the Nakamichi anymore.
Right.
So yeah, they're going to drive to find Julie. And he's like, do you have enough gas to do this? Because we got to go get this chick. Then we got to go to the helipad. He's like, no, I don't have any gas. I just have car stereos. So he's like, here's a gas station. Go to this one. But it's like one of those cab specific gas stations.
If you're a younger listener, car stereos were like the Bitcoin of today.
Yeah.
That, you just had car stereos. Like, oh my God, he's got an empire of car stereos. This guy was paid to record an album with car stereos.
Right. Also, if you're younger, a cab back in the day, it's like an Uber, but it was more expensive. You couldn't call it on an app, and they never came.
There you go.
It was also yellow.
It was also yellow. But so they pull into this cab gas station.
This actually reminds me of Chicago. Because Wilson's like, hey man, he's not gonna give us gas.
Right.
And I think normally people would be like, that's weird, but I've been to parts of Chicago that was like, yeah, dude, like, you better like get out of your car and lay bills across like the floor because no one in their right mind is going to open the gas tank for you or like even like more contemporary times, flick a switch behind their bulletproof like little like cubby. Like this is all for show. Like I don't even know why this gas station exists. Like it might be like mandated by law, but that's kind of where they're at. And the dude running it's a total weirdo.
Well, I mean, I think
sawed
it's
off
just
shotgun.
where the cabs go to get gas. Probably reasonable for them.
Well, I guess that makes more sense.
I mean, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Like it's a cab station. And that's,
Oh, I did not hear that.
yeah. It's a gas station for cabs specifically.
Oh, it just looked like this dude was just like, if anyone rolls up, I'm gonna kill you.
No, yeah. It was like a yellow cab specific gas station. Yeah. So yeah. So they pull up.
Rabbit Troop Sucks was brought to you by Yellow Cab.
Yeah.
Call us. We'll talk about it. Are you relevant?
Every once in a while, I see a Metro cab, but it's like, it's not like a Crown Vic or anything you would expect, or a Prius. It's just like someone's car. It's got like crayon written on
I
it.
see like one a month.
Yeah, they're out there, I
a
guess.
clear indication that things are awry in the cab.
Maybe they were like
303 333 3333.
yeah, it's 77777. Or maybe they're reliving like a Roger Rabbit fantasy. They just drive around.
Maybe, yeah.
And you drive around, you do enough drugs, you could imagine anything. You're like,
right.
hey, Roger. And you're like, "Woo."
That's exactly what's happening in those cabs.
Right.
You could do enough Jessica Rabbit to fly off into eternity.
Like a strain of weed. It probably is.
I don't know anything about those things or about the happenings of the Colorado residential areas.
What?
Shame.
Okay.
For shame.
All right.
So they get out of the car. Harry hands, what's his name?
Trombone.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Harry hands Wilson $20. Says, hey, just like get this guy to put some gas in the car. I'm gonna go call Grandpa. This dude comes out of the cab office with like a shotgun, and he's not fucking stoked about
I think
any of
maybe
this.
that's what disarmed me. That this dude comes out and he is like in like a leather vest. He's got a sawed-off shotgun. He's like, hey man, like this dude is making me get gas. He's like, I'm not gonna do it. He's like, he said he would give you this $20 and then pay you $50 for gas. He's like, all right.
Yeah, like the minute money's brought into it, he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit.
Also, this is gonna change really quickly. And
Yeah, this scene gets bonkers real quick.
Yeah.
So Harry's talking to Grandpa. He's like, hey, wake up your fucking wife.
Yeah, I met you earlier today. I know this is a crazy request, but some weird stuff's going. You need to literally like wake up your wife. You've never talked to her, and wake up Julie. I'll meet you basically outside. You have 5 minutes. Let's go. Crazy.
Right. And as he's making this call, some fucking police officers show up because they're driving by and they see leather guy with a shotgun walking around, and they're like, fuck you are.
No, I'm gonna slow this down a little bit. So the police are like whoop whoop, and they siren up.
Oh, yeah.
and they roll up, and they're slowly rolling up, and
Right.
they slowly get out of the car.
Yeah, they're just checking it out.
And the leather dude is like, oh my God, I'm going to get 5 years for this gun. This guy had like 5 minutes to like just put it behind
Right, yeah, he
something.
could have easily-
Like, he is holding it with two hands, like the pump and like the handle, like two-handed, looking at the police officer.
Well, also in it, so yeah, he says, I'm going to get 5 years for this gun. And Wilson's like, I'm going to get 10 years for what's in my fucking trunk.
Yeah. what was the company?
Nakamichi.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
could sponsor us.
Yeah,
So,
I don't.
Nakamichi.
Yeah. But also, my thought was, so you are someone who works at the facility that you are at, and someone who is clearly not supposed to be there, aka someone who isn't a cab, is there being weird. Like, I feel like if the cops show up, you could be like, hey, I work here. This is a cab gas station. I don't know what this dude's doing here. Maybe help me out.
Is it illegal to have a sawed-off shotgun?
Yeah, he said, yeah, I'm going to get 10 years for this gun.
No, I mean, and that's fair, but like he immediately jumped to being like concerned about his position. Like
That's...
I feel like he had a little bit of negotiating room.
He did. and
like, hey, I know I'm not supposed to have this gun,
he
but...
seemed like
Right.
the one that would just go for the gun first and then ask questions
Lamar,
later.
yes.
Right. But anyway, the cops pull in.
That's why he was hired for the job. That was on his resume.
Yes, it was.
What are some of your strengths? I will go for the gun and ask questions later. What are some of your weaknesses? I keep secrets too tightly.
Clearly, he could negotiate with these cops.
You can negotiate anything with a sawed-off shotgun. If video games taught me anything, it was that.
Yeah, that's true. You can.
Well, speaking of coming in full cocked, the cops get out of the car, guns out, ready to party.
Trombone central.
And they're like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Wilson's response to this is to
Wait, I want to put this in Dungeons and Dragons terms, and
good.
I've probably said this before on this podcast. I'll let Mike describe what Wilson does, but it's you call out an action in Dungeons and Dragons and you roll the dice. And your dungeon master's like, okay, so you want to get bananas, you want to get bonkers, roll dice, dice roll. Oh crap, this dude just rolled a 19. Like not a 20, he rolled a 19. Now your dungeon master is locked into the situation, and I'll let Mike describe what Wilson pulls off, because this was an all or nothing move. This was, you were going to die probably, but you're not. Oh my God, because you just rolled a 19, but everyone else is going to die.
Yeah. So Wilson has a saving throw here, and he's got the gas nozzle in his hand, and he just starts spraying the cops with gas.
Like Zoolander at the gas station.
Yeah, like they're having a gasoline fight. And the cops are alarmed, but he doesn't attempt to set them on fire. He's just trying to create a diversion. One of the cops shoots the gun. It kind of backfires or something.
It just ignites.
The
hammer against the bullet itself creates a spark, ignites on her sleeves.
Right, and this poor police officer is in flames. The other cop is like, oh fuck, I don't
also sprayed them.
Right, he's like, I don't know what to do to help you because I am also covered in gasoline. He also catches on fire, and everything fucking explodes. So Wilson and Harry steal the cop car and drive off. He's like, I had to spray him with gas. They didn't give me a choice.
Yeah, this is a crazy move because, Harry gets in the cop car because it's open. And I kind of understand, like you're just frantically thinking.
Yeah, you're doing what you got to do.
So he backs up, kind of drives around, and I like it. He does come back and picks up Wilson. He's like, get in. And he's like, you're going to be one of the lucky ones in all of this.
Yeah.
So while they're in the car, Wilson and Harry basically make a deal. He's like, well, I need to go get someone. And Wilson's like, well, if all this stuff is happening, and now they're referencing it's a meltdown. I guess that's a very 80s thing. It's going to melt down, nuclear meltdown. I mean, that's what they're noting, that the nuclear missiles.
Well, so this is 2 years after Chernobyl.
Nuclear.
When was 3 Mile Island?
I don't know. You want dates?
No. Just did it happen before this movie came out? And is it 3 Mile Island, or is it a different amount of Mile Island?
Why is this guy trying to give us quizzes in the middle of the night?
You're right with Chernobyl.
Well, yeah, because that was 1986.
Yeah.
Or 4.
We could talk about Rocky Mountain Flats if you want to get nuclear.
Yeah, Rocky Flats is just a whole sad thing.
And a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah.
Mike has promised to do the neutron dance.
I did. I'm doing it now. But yeah, so Harry's like, you know what? I work at the plant. There's a meltdown.
I also work at the plant.
We're all working at the plant.
I work at the factory.
And yeah, Wilson's like, well, when's the cloud coming? We got to get my sister.
As long as hip down, the cloud's coming.
The cloud's coming.
Meltdown.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a cool way to refer to it. He was already hip with the lingo. Or maybe that was just something you said in the 80s. I don't know. So yeah, they go to Julia's apartment. Harry breaks into it.
Yeah, and there's basically a deal. Wilson's like, y'all wait here just for 5 minutes. He's like, I got to go up these steps. He's like, honk 4 times. And he's like, okay, I'll wait.
Right.
Short-lived.
Yeah.
Short-lived promises.
Spoiler alert, he does not wait.
It's a good thing you mentioned that because, he took off.
So Harry goes in there. The grandmother pulls a gun on him, but then it's like, oh, I met you. You're that weird musician fella.
Oh, pearls.
Wilson honks, and he's like, hey, go fuck yourself. I'm leaving.
He's like, no. He's like, I'm going to come down. He's like, nah, I got to get my sister. Bye. And just leaves.
Yeah, okay, bye. And then he just leaves in the police car.
And then Harry's like, Grandma, do you have a car? She's like, I do. I haven't driven it in years. I'm like, great.
Yeah, that sounds great. So they're all going downstairs. We have a little family reunion. The grandfather is there. I
was trying to think about the also the situation of this complex. I was like, all right, so they live in separate buildings, but the grandfather's waiting in a lobby. Do these buildings share a mutual underground parking lot? I don't know what's going on.
It doesn't fucking matter. But they all meet up, and Harry kind of tells them what's going on. Julie is still passed out. She's in a shopping cart for some reason. He's pushing her around like a hobo.
It's the only way to get her around.
Yeah, apparently.
There's also like one Valium. This is like a grown woman. I'm not saying people couldn't be like, oh, I'm super groggy and out of it, but this is like...
No, she is like dead to the world.
Yeah, I mean, this is like someone took a handful of pills, or like, this is Doc Brown in Back to the Future 3. Like, he has a shot and goes face down. Like, how much did he have? Like one, like a bottle, like one shot, like
yeah.
one shot.
I can see Valium putting you out
Like this.
I don't know.
Honestly, I've never taken a Valium. I don't know what that's.
I have to believe that none of you, if you were in a shopping cart. Wouldn't at least be like, what the hell's going on?
He does even make a remark. It's like, is she a deep sleeper?
Yeah.
Like, they're like shaking her around. She's like, oh, she took a Valium.
I mean, previous to
She's,
seeing
like,
this
way
movie,
out.
most of my exposure to Valium was Prince Valium from Spaceballs. So that's what I'm basing all this off of.
Well, she does come to at the shopping cart, admittedly, like after a while, and she's like, well, my legs hurt. And he's like, okay. And the grandparents are both in the car, and she's like, why? They're together? They're talking?
Well, okay, let's back up for 1 second, because when they're in the lobby of the building, he's like, oh, you have a car. Let's go get it. And the grandparents are like, we'll get the car and we'll catch up to you. So, like, you push this bitch down the street in a shopping cart, and we'll get the car and drive. Like, the fuck you will. Like, why don't we all just go to the car? I do not understand why they did not all go to the car. But it doesn't matter, yeah. Well, they didn't go to the car so that they could have this scene where she wakes up in the shopping cart with her leg asleep.
Okay, so the grandparents do then pull up, and I'm going to ask both of you a question, and it's going to prove to me that I know nothing about mileage and speed, and we're basically going to do a math equation. But they're like, we're not going to go with you. And he's like, well, don't tell Julie. Like, she doesn't know what's happening, and I just think it's for the best. And I don't know why he's really saying this. I'm like, one way or another, you're going to have to tell her something.
Yeah.
You're going to a heliport. You're getting on a helicopter, going to an airport. I don't know what's going on. But and she's like, well, why are you two talking to each other? And they're like, we need to go off. And then they say to him, Harry, we're going to go get like this greasy sandwich and this like artery clogging nonsense because we've made up, and I'm a stickler for health, but not this time. Like, we're going to die doing what we love, loving each other, like eating sandwiches. I'm like, all right, whatever. So here's my question. You have 70 minutes. It's the middle of the night. So like, let's imagine Colorado. We're in Denver. 70 minutes, and we hear that they're going to do some kind of nuclear strike on Denver. Could we outrun that? Like, how far do you have to get away from a nuclear blast? Like, I mean, it sounds tragic, and I don't mean to break the mood, but like, think about like World War II and dropping bombs in Japan and various other things. Like, how big was the radius of each of those things?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I would sure as fuck be trying.
Oh, sure, of course.
But like, I mean, in Denver, we geographically, like, we could drive east or west, or literally we could drive.
I'd go east.
I would go east also, but I mean, assuming Denver is a target, you can go any direction from Denver and be away from anything within a half an hour. Either in the mountains, or if you drive east, like towards Kansas, like it's just fields.
I'm just like, could we outrun it? Like, so think about it like this. Clearly, we need 15 minutes to pack stuff. We're like frantically going. So we have about 50 minutes of just hardcore driving at night. Could 50 or so minutes buy us enough time to drive away from a blast that could theoretically impact our lives negatively?
Sure. Like, my answer is I don't know if that's enough time, but like
sure, I would, of course I'd try.
But in that context, I would try. But within the context of this movie, like they mentioned that like LA was like a kill basin, and also if you're in LA, in an hour you're not driving out of a populated area. So assuming like you're in a target area for a nuclear strike, like you're not getting away from. In Denver, I feel like we could get away from a place that would have a target on its back.
Well, they did show like this is like, starting at 3:30, 4 in the morning, that this is the only window where you're not going to see heavy traffic, so you do have a vantage point. I was like, and it's kind of interesting because there's two things. Like, one, could you? I totally agree with Mike. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to try. Could you do it? Is one of my questions. Just anywhere, like, could you outrun it? Because yeah, maybe you get 50 minutes away, but like, is the blast so strong that like 3 years later you die from like radiation cancers and various other horrible things?
I mean, I'd still give it a shot.
Of course, I'd still try.
I mean, I think the reason, the conceit here, why they didn't, was that like they knew that there was nowhere that they were going to go.
Yeah.
Not because they're in a more populated area. Like we could drive, we could be out of a city and into some remote location. We could be in like a cave in the mountain in an hour.
Right.
We could be at the Cave of the Winds in 45 minutes.
I would go to the Cave of the Wind. This has been brought to you by Cave of the Winds. Fallout shelter for those who believe. The one of the other things I noted too, you know, like, so that's like a big kind of cool thing in the background. Like, could you outrun this? And two, is any of this real? Like, you don't know as a viewer. That's why I didn't want to say anything to Lamar. You're just like, you're like, okay, so like this was said, you got this phone call. Some people are like, this is mysterious. I have connections, but we don't know any of these people.
Right.
So none of this is happening outside of this guy's own head.
Right.
But the pandemonium is spreading because of rumors, which is kind of a super cool concept.
Well, and that's kind of a thread of the movie that we haven't really talked about yet, is like this guy is kind of somewhat having doubts as to whether or not this is real.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he is the point of entry for this information. And right now, the only people who are reacting to it are him. So to throw back a second ago to when they were in the cop car driving to Julia's house, he takes up the radio and he calls, you know, whoever answers the police radio, and he's like, oh, hey, you know, Thor Android or whatever the fuck that code name was earlier. Like,
well, I think the people who pick up are Smokies.
They're Smokies, yeah. So the Smokies are like, we don't, what are you talking about? What information is this? He's like, yeah, have you started the evacuation proceedings? He's like, he's trying to validate this information with some other official channel.
Yeah, I got the Thor Arthur.
The Thor Arthur, yeah. And the people, the Smokies who answer the radio, like, they don't know what he's talking about. So at this point, he still is not 100% convinced that this isn't just in his head, or it wasn't just a gag.
Paladin Mike, if you got the Thor Arthur, what would you do?
Fucking Paladin Mike. I'd be doing the same thing that he's doing. Where the they were going, the grandparents were going to get the pastrami sandwich, and Harry and Julie were going to the helipad.
Yeah.
That's where we left off, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they get there, and he's kind of like making things up, and he's not really telling her the truth.
This is why I don't understand this plan. Like,
no, his plan fucking sucks.
I mean, listen, like, if the plan was, I know how to fly a helicopter, I have access to one, I'm going to tell her we're going on a romantic date because I could control all of this, that's one thing. But 75 people, I mean, not really that he knows, but a bunch of people know this. They're going to clearly be talking about end of days meltdown, like real quick. Like, what else are you going to talk about? Like, hi, I don't know you, Lamar, but we're on a helicopter, me, you, and 7 other people.
Right.
Clearly, because we're outrunning a nuclear bomb. Like,
right. Yeah. He is bringing her to meet people who are all aware of the situation, and he is still not telling her the truth.
Guys, it's her birthday. Don't say anything.
Right.
I think he wanted to ease the situation as much as he could.
I guess. Well, he fucking sucked at it.
He sucked ass at it
because she was like, "Hey, no, I don't. Whatever stupid thing you're doing, like, I want to go with my grandparents to get pancakes. They haven't talked to each other in like 20 years. This is kind of cool." He's like, "Shut up, bitch. We're going on a balloon ride."
Let's watch Mr. Destiny with Jim Belushi.
What?
Yeah, it's like a what if I live my life the other way? You've never seen this? Let's do that.
I don't know, maybe.
It's like a Twilight Zone because I don't know why that's what's happening. Like, I'm gonna wish my way to victory on this one. Like,
yeah, I mean, he kind of was, I guess. So they're going up the elevator into the whatever the building that the helipad is on top of.
Yeah, it's like 2 women get out with like Uzis.
Oh yeah, like these two babes get out of like a BMW with like a bunch of guns and like bags of ammunition.
Yeah,
I feel there needs to be a movie about them.
Yeah,
have we seen them before?
No, I want to know the adventure that they went on to get those guns.
Okay, so Lamar, yes, I was going to say the exact same thing. So clearly I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, like these women are much older now and we can't have this movie. I just mean, like, I want to know their backstory, so we can't really have the same, actors play someone, 40 years later. But this seems like a Grand Theft Auto game that was meant to be. Like,
Yeah, they got the side quest and they fucking went on it.
it's like, hey, you got a side quest. You're gonna rob a bank and fight the Yakuza, and you're gonna do this. Oops, some missiles are coming your way, and you only know this because you stole some government equipment. Like, you now can leave with your riches.
New quest, Lieutenant Tasha Yar called. She needs bags
Yar.
of guns. Yeah, so they kind of follow him into the building. But they're going up the elevator. They get to the helipad, and now we have, what's his name? Russell from Wayne's World. I don't know what the actor's name is.
Eric Fuller or Kurt Fuller.
Kurt Fuller. Kurt Fuller is like coked up and pissed.
Oh, yeah. This is like a transformer of human rage and drugs. Because right now you're seeing stage one of drugged out. This is,
yeah.
I'm talking to myself. I've got water jugs.
Right.
You tell Landa, which is, Tasha, you tell Landa, I got all the chips from her office. I put them in boxes. I got chips and files. I'm like,
Right.
oh my God. But he's like, bop, 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 bop. This is, I noted Ben Stiller with Zoolander. This is, Starsky and Hutch coked up Ben Stiller. This is like talking a mile a minute, freaking out. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
a button in his shirt. He's sweaty.
Yeah, this is who Tasha Yar called to like get her shit done because she knew that he would be awake and coked up.
Which he was.
Yeah, which
well,
he
then
was.
he's like,
Yeah.
I think he says like she gave me like $3,000.
Right, he's like, yeah, he gave me all this money. Like, I got this helicopter. I can't find a pilot. I got all this stuff. And this is what Paul was mentioning earlier. Like, they pan out on the roof, and there's like 7 office jugs of water and like,
Yeah, like 75 suitcases.
right, like clearly more things that can fit in this very small
It
helicopter.
was bigger than a helicopter.
100% it was. I don't know how many people they were planning on taking with them. This is like a 4-seat helicopter at best.
This I don't want to get all super like conspiracy theorist, like survivalist on everyone, but like everyone packed like they're like, we're gonna repopulate. Even like 2 women were like, what, are we gonna have like sex and repopulate it with everyone? Like that's later mentioned, or it was mentioned before, like on the side. But that's why they have these water jugs and boxes of chips and stuff. Listen, if this was the situation, I feel I would have probably 2 little bags, and it'd be like a backpack and a side bag, and it'd be like 1 change of clothes and food and like backup batteries. And I was be like, I'm out, just to get to the next place. I mean,
Right.
That's why you travel out. This isn't like I'm bringing everything to repopulate and start a new life. It's like I like we all need to leave and go as far as humanly possible. Like,
Right.
I think the biggest pieces of technology I'd have would be like my lightest laptop and a cell phone, but not like I'm bringing my DVD collection.
Right. Yeah, I mean, who knows what they were bringing, but like earlier when Tasha Yar was making the phone calls to put all this together, she's talking about like we need down jackets because they're going to Antarctica. That was her plan.
No. The down jackets. The down jackets. Yes,
God.
heavy down jackets.
So
warm.
like, I think
Nice
she,
little bag. Light.
that's a good call out. Yeah. Nice little vest. I think in her mind, like this is the last time they will be able to get provisions before they go on the longer leg of this journey. But yeah, like they're not fitting this shit into that helicopter.
I mean, what would you all pack? Like, imagine, like, I'm again guessing I have like a small little side bag, whatever that is, and like a backpack. I'm guessing I would probably put like 2 pairs of underwear, 2 pairs of socks, maybe, depending on where we're going, another pair of shoes. Everything else is food and very light technology.
Yeah, I mean,
These days, yeah, pretty much.
I mean, like, I love fig bars. All of
Right.
those are going in there. It's compact, stuff like that. I'm not, like, jugs of water, I'd have like 3, like, and like a reusable bottle. Like, I'd imagine we're again going east. Like,
yeah.
no one's bombing Ohio.
Right. Well, I mean, I am not like a conspiracy theorist or a doomsday prepper, but my girlfriend and I like backpacking, so we each have like pretty substantial camping setups. And because we live in a smaller house with not a lot of storage, like all that stuff is kind of kept packed up. So I would be grabbing like my backpacking backpack because it has a sleeping bag, a tent, like a water purifier,
Sure.
iodine tablets, like a stove, gasoline canisters. Like we have all this stuff. We don't have it at the ready for an emergency we just have it because that's how we store it. But like,
I mean, that's what I said before. Like everyone would probably take like 10 to 15
but like
minutes.
that's
like,
what I would be taking. I would shove underwear and like my contact lenses into it.
That's what I mean. Like everyone would be like, I'm gonna pack like I'm camping. Like we're going away for the weekend. Like we have provisions, but not like I'm gonna be like the next like going from point A to B is point A is now hell because there's gonna be a nuclear explosion, and point B is now the rest of my life will be here. It's just seems probably very temporary. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, no one was thinking clearly, but effectively that doesn't really matter because Russell from Wayne's World is pissed off. He's freaking out, and ultimately there's no pilot. So he's talking to Harry about like, where do I find a pilot? And Harry's like, yeah, where can I find a pilot? Like it is 4:00 in the morning in L.A. And he's now like his new mission is like, okay, I have to find a pilot. So he talks to Julie. He's like, hey, stay on the roof. If I don't come back, I don't know, something. I'm gonna go find a pilot. So he's running around. He asks like the street sweeper if he's a pilot, and the street sweeper just flips him off.
Yeah, this is right out of Revenge of the Nerds. When Booger goes
No, you got a room for rent.
Yeah, it's like tap 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 tap. Street sweeper is like, hey, F you. So
also, I think that wasn't that like the fat guy that was clowning on Lieutenant Tasha Yar earlier in the movie.
Oh, was it?
I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That I did not get.
I think
the guy in the
guy in the street sweeper.
The guy in the diner
Yeah.
earlier, one of the construction workers.
Yeah, wasn't that him?
I don't think that was him.
Oh.
Because I thought he was in the van.
Oh, I don't know.
It
All
looked like him.
those fat construction workers.
I just like the audacity of I need to find a helicopter pilot 4 a.m. in LA on the street.
I'm just gonna ask everybody.
They're just yelling it out in the street. Yeah, helicopter. Go to a random street sweeper.
Right.
Thinking of happy holiday moments, my dad Rico, if I didn't already say this one on air, is he picked my wife and I were going to visit her family on like the days leading until Christmas in Detroit, and on Christmas Day itself, we left Detroit going to Chicago, and we arrived in Chicago. It was all super early in the morning. We arrived like in Chicago, like literally like 6:30 in the morning. It was like a 40-minute flight from Detroit to Chicago. My wife and I both were feeling kind of crappy. My dad picked us up from the airport, and we were getting closer to where he was living at the time. We were at a red light, and it turned green, and this woman clearly looked at us, and then just clearly walked in front of our car with a dog. And my dad kind of honked the horn and like kind of gave the shrug, like, hey, like clearly I gotta get going, hurry up. And the woman, this is now like 7:30 in the morning, Christmas Day in Chicago. The woman just stops in the middle of the street, halts her dog by like reining it in, just looks at my dad and goes, hey, F you, and flips him off. And my dad she goes past, and then my dad just drives back, just rolls down the window and goes, hey, Merry Christmas. Like, hey. It's like, wow.
Rico.
Season's greetings.
Yeah. Well, this guy did not say Merry Christmas. He just drove off. But the next stop for finding a pilot was a gym that was open. So he runs into the gym. He's brandishing a gun at this point.
Yeah, so it's still like almost 5 in the morning.
Right, it's like 5 in the morning.
But there's like people like just jogging to the gym. Like people have been up all day and they just walk in the gym and it's super 80s. Everyone's wearing like purple.
It is the most
blues.
80s gym. Yeah,
like I feel the floor's like heavily like thick carpeted. It's bizarre.
It was great. And he's like, hey, is anyone a helicopter pilot? I'm looking for a helicopter pilot. He runs into a room where they're doing like jazzercise. He shoots their fucking stereo. It's like, hey, it's an emergency. I need a helicopter pilot. And they're like, no. But finally, someone says, I'm a helicopter pilot.
Wow.
And the guy working on it's Brian Thompson.
Yeah, it's the alien bounty hunter from X-Files.
Yeah, the super soldier.
Yeah.
Brian Thompson is just like working out, like super muscle. Like, I'm a helicopter pilot. Like, all right, well, we need to get going. He's like, I need to get someone. He's just for real. He's like, yeah, it's not really a heart transplant. It's we'll talk later. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, but it better be for real. I'm getting like, Vanessa or something?
Yeah, it was it was kind of like an ambiguous name.
Well, also like everyone seems really put off. He's like, well, I need to get someone. And I'm like, oh man, like we're going to like another location, like someone's house.
No, he just goes in the other room.
Yeah, the room is like 4 feet away. Like, so like the Harry, the lead is like, oh my God. And the guy's like, hey, like Vanessa, I have the name written down somewhere. She's like, yeah. He's like, we're getting out of here. Let's beat this popsicle stand.
Well, yeah. So he's like, he grabbed it's. So the name I think was like meant to be ambiguous. It was like, I don't know. What it doesn't fucking matter. But it was like a little Twinkie dude that he pulls out. He's like, is there a problem with this? Like clearly like. Yeah, I'm gonna bring my boyfriend with me. Is that cool? And he's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And so they all start running, and he's like, okay, we got to go to this helicopter. But then, of course, because Julie is a dumb piece of shit, we now see her running down the street.
She had to go down like 35 floors in the elevator. She's down just like wandering. She's like, hey, you just hear her things like, hey, no.
She's wandering around. So Harry's like, fuck me, fuck this bitch. He's like, okay, so like, hey, alien bounty hunter, here's $3,000.
Oh, it's Leslie. It was Leslie.
Leslie, there you go.
Gets Leslie from the other room.
Yeah.
God, fuck.
Yeah, because this is the money that he got from Russell from Wayne's World. He's like, if this is for real, like, do not leave without me. Take this money. I gotta go get this stupid bitch who's running around. He's like, okay, I won't leave without you. And then they part ways, and he goes running off to look for Julia again.
Yeah, so when he leaves the super soldier, Brian Thompson, he's like, don't leave without me. So promises are made. And this kind of sucks because Brian Thompson, spoiler, might have lived if he didn't upheld the deal. I guess Leslie lives because we don't see her again.
It was yeah. Well, who knows? Again, this helicopter held 4 people, and they have
lots of water.
Now they have promised like
so many chips,
20 people seats on this thing.
Tasha Yar, we don't even see. Like maybe she got there.
Tasha Yar, we never see again.
Yeah, we don't have that budget.
No, she had to go do something else. So he's chasing Julia down, and then all of a sudden this cop car drives by and like drives into a department store window.
The strangest car crash ever. It's just like cop cars just right into this fucking like taking out mannequins.
Lamar was talking and he was doing hand motions, and it reminded me of just like playing with Hot Wheels when I was like 4.
That's exactly how that car crashed.
No, it was, yeah.
You pull that Hot Wheels trigger too fast, and that car just spins right off track, right into a mall window.
Oops.
So Julia follows it in. She's like, "Oh my god, do you guys need help?" And of course, Harry goes in after her, and it's Wilson from earlier, and he's got his sister, but they have both been shot a billion times by real cops who have been following them because they have been driving around a stolen police car.
Real outsiders moment.
So they go in, they're like, and they have this kind of exchange. Wilson he's like, yeah, like the plant's melting down. And Julie's like, who told you that? He's like, oh, that fucking guy told me that.
He said he worked at the plant.
That was
my favorite show. I was like, I said a lot of things.
Right, yeah. He's like, well, I was just trying to move the story along. So
when you're on Valium, I had to be a different person.
Right, like, we all made different decisions 15 minutes ago. It was different times.
The look on his face as it's like, he told me the world was ending. I was like, I just want to get out of here.
Listen, dude, you're dying. You've been shot. Let's just don't bring me into this. Yeah. Be a bro. Be a pal.
Wilson, why'd you have to bring me into
this? He's
this?
holding his dying sister in his arms as he's doing this too.
Yeah, right.
Dude, I know the world's about to end, but like me and this girl got something going on. So like don't bring me into this.
Right.
I've got my own thing. Your whole blood thing, that sucks.
You get your own story going on. So spoiler alert, the sister dies and Wilson's like, this fucking sucks. Will you just shoot me so I can die? Because I hate all this. And Harry's like, you know what? Okay, I'll shoot you. But then he dies before he has to.
Yeah, this is a weird moment. I mean, another fake out. Like, it's like, yeah, just shoot me in the face. I'm going to die anyhow. He's like, okay. And he's about to do it. And then Wilson dies. I was like, whoa, that got...
It got dark, yeah.
It did.
And then the cops are like, now come on out, cop killer. Like, we know what's going on because they think it's just Wilson. They don't know that Harry and Julie are there. And, who knows? I mean, they could probably get out of it. If they thought for a moment, these dum-dums could probably get out of it. Like, we just saw this cop car do this.
I mean, that's what Julie's position was. She's like,
Julie's position is pretty real.
Right, like, we're bystanders. Like, this is legit. Like, I ran into this building because I saw a car crash
but Harry's
into
like,
it.
yes, this Yes, I know none of these
Yeah,
people.
right. Well, I mean, he obviously has more context than she does, but if he played along, but so they do eventually agree, and they're like, hands up, like, hey, we're coming out.
I think to tie it back to the last episode, and because we're going to wrap up the year and then come back strong, and we already have an idea of the next movie, I think basically Harry's become the town cranberry. Everyone's had a taste. Everyone's used the town cranberry. We're going to end the year with the town cranberry.
I'll make a town cranberry T-shirt.
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
if you want us to make a town cranberry T-shirt, wear it proudly. Just don't become the town cranberry yourself.
No, it's no one wants that. But yeah, so they're their hands up. They're kind of going out through the broken glass. But when they get outside, the cops are driving away frantically.
What? One guy is rappelling from the rooftop.
They got like a SWAT guy rappelling down there, and he just fucking falls.
Yeah, he just falls on his ass.
and
then
he gets up, looks at him, and fucking cheeses it.
Like Three Stooges style.
Right.
Like, whoopsies. Like, it's like run into like the
Guarantee that
SWAT
was
car.
the first take.
Yeah,
Didn't edit it out.
I'll bet he wasn't supposed to fall, but he did, and then he just fucking Zoidbergs right out of there.
Reshoot that. They weren't going to reshoot that.
So, and Harry and Julie are like, what the fuck is going on? But now it's clear that like people are aware of what's going on because we are in Pandemonium Town right now.
So yeah, now it's like another interesting shift because this movie has a lot of great concepts and a lot of great ideas. And now like you've got to think like some people may be left with this helicopter. Like, is the helicopter pilot still there? Probably not. The two, grandparents, they're like, we're going to go eat this greasy sandwich and probably die. But they probably got far enough that maybe they could live. That was my question earlier. Now you're screwed. Now the word's out because Harry gets involved with a mob scene. They're like the Radio Shack of the day is like all the TVs in the window. He breaks one of them. They hear
like the news is reporting this now.
Unconfirmed rumors of nuclear attacks. What's going on? It's beyond pandemonium. People are now like shooting you. Like people are dead in the street.
Right.
Like, there's carjackings. There's gridlock traffic. No one's going anywhere. Harry gets involved with like kind of like this weird situation where he gives Julie the gun and she's like, no. And he's like, there's no bullets. Just, use it to get out. And she does it immediately. She's like, get away from me. And it kind of like gets in the crowd. He runs off and gets immediately into an altercation with a dude because he's jumping on the car. And the guy's trying to shoot Harry. They get into a sewer system.
Well, let's backtrack a second because something happens that you've been bitching about the whole episode. They're right next to the original diner.
Oh yeah.
And there's a coyote in it for some reason because wilderness has already taken over. But he uses the original payphone and remembers the number. And
I do have that in my notes.
He calls Chip's dad, and Chip's dad's like, "What? I don't know. That's classified. Shut up."
Shit. Yeah, and my notes were like props to this. I was like, oh my god, like he actually tries to do this. And that's what I said earlier, only halfway. He basically hangs out. He doesn't deliver the full message. He's like, well, your son, Chip, works in a missile site. That's classified. He's like, and he should have been like, his last words were to me, blank and blank, blank.
Right.
But he's like, and just hangs up. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Well,
Chip's dad is the true hero.
Right.
I'm hashtagging Chip's dad.
Okay.
Hashtagging.
But yeah, so
and full readiness.
we're at full readiness. So him and Julie are trying to figure out what to do, and he thinks he sees the helicopter pilot. He thinks he sees the alien bounty hunter
But he doesn't.
running away, and he's like, "Fuck! I got to go find this helicopter pilot now." Julie,
why is he just walking around?
Right, like take the gun, go to the tower, like just I don't know, fucking something. So he gets to this guy that he thinks is the helicopter pilot, and it's just some other guy in like similar workout tights. It's like this.
And that's when the altercation happens. Sewer duct system.
Yeah, I don't know why he went into the sewer,
but he gets out of the sewer pipe that he gets out of is thankfully basically the lobby of the building he needs to get in for the helicopter.
Very convenient.
Goes back up. And then we see Kurt Fuller at full tilt.
Yeah, so he runs into Julie in the lobby, and they go up the elevator, and they're so there's like a flash when they're in the elevator, and the power goes out, the light goes out in the elevator, but they're still going up.
Yeah, it's like, do you think that was it? Like the nuclear blast?
Right.
He's like, maybe, but we won't feel anything.
Right. But then like ding, they're at the roof.
No, they're not.
Oh.
For 4 floors, they try to have sex.
Oh yeah, they briefly try to
They
have
start
sex.
making out. They're like, we'll be together forever, and they half disrobe each other, like they're taking off each other's overshirts. And again, they're going up 3 floors steadily in an elevator. The nuclear blast or whatever the vibration was did not slow this down.
Right.
But imagine like we have 4 seconds. Let's go.
I can do it. I can do it in 4 seconds.
They tried this weird artsy like red and white.
It wasn't art.
Yeah.
It wasn't artsy. It reminded me of
yeah.
It reminded me of Alien 3 and why I dislike the movie, where the movie's all like in a jail and only red.
Yes, that's
Sure.
exactly what
It's
it
the
was.
It's the virtual boy of movies.
It's
Yeah.
like Kenny Rogers roaster. The red
Planet. The red planet.
It's just all red.
So when Harry said you won't feel a thing, was he talking about dying or them fucking?
Bazoo. Now that's the trombone.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll see myself out.
It's been brought to you by Wilson's Trombones.
Yeah. Dear God, another T-shirt opportunity. It doesn't cost anything to make these shirts, by the way.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
The Town Cranberry.
Town Cranberry. Okay. So they're attempting to fuck. The elevator gets to the roof and opens up, and what's his name? Russell from Wayne's World? I don't know what his name is.
Kurt Fuller.
Kurt Fuller is there like he is coked up. He's drinking wine.
He is the Coke, Mike.
Like I think when they get there, he is fucking a corpse. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I saw.
Goddamn right.
Yeah.
He's drinking wine out of a bottle that he broke the top off of because he didn't have a corkscrew. And he is losing his goddamn mind. And Harry and Julie are like, well, fuck, there's no helicopter. It's just Kurt Fuller.
But there is a helicopter.
But then like, oh, surprise, like we hear a helicopter.
Brian Thompson's back.
Brian Thompson's back. He comes back, he lands, and he's worse for it. He's like bleeding.
I'm going to quote, I said I'll be here.
I said I'll be here. It also doesn't look like there's anyone else in the helicopter.
No, so he drops Leslie off. That was really nice.
Yeah.
He dropped the jugs of water.
Yeah, there's nothing there. So they get in the helicopter and they fly off, but now, well, it's too late.
Yeah, so also we're seeing missiles actually being launched.
Oh yeah, like
so
Kurt Fuller is watching the missiles being launched.
Well,
He's
there's
like,
one that
"Woo."
fully goes past them, and he's like, "It's gonna go to Tijuana," and I don't know if that's true or not because he's like made of cocaine at this point in time.
Yeah.
But then like other missiles are coming, and I don't want to be a jerk. Like I would try to uphold my promise to someone, but like when a super soldier Brian Thompson comes back, he's like, "I said I'd be back."
Yeah, he shouldn't have come back.
Like why?
Yeah.
Dude, missile. You're seeing missiles at the you've got to assume like if you go back, you're gonna die, and they're about to.
Wherever he took Tristan or whatever his name was, Leslie. Wherever he took Leslie, he should have stayed there with Leslie.
Listen, Triscuits.
But so they all get in the helicopter. The bombs start exploding. The helicopter crashes, and now we have a callback because the helicopter fucking crashes in the Liberator bit.
Because this person wrote a movie and was like, I wrote the beginning and the end on the same day. And then me and the cast did a bunch of drugs on the other days. And we did some other things, but...
Right. Kurt Fuller wasn't acting. He brought the drugs.
Like, I brought 2 pieces of toast. I told you that. What's in between the toast was a drug-filled romp.
Yes.
Yeah, so they crash in the oil pits.
Yeah.
And there's talks of evolution, like, maybe one day they'll find us like this. Well, one, it's kind of funny because Julie is trying to get out.
Yeah,
She's
she wants out of this
I don't
fucking
want to die like
helicopter.
this. I don't want to drown. I don't want to die like this.
Honestly, this is a helicopter that is filling up with tar. I would have tried to get out of it as well.
Is it real tar or is it just like water that's
like
supposed
water.
to look like...
I don't know, but
Okay.
I don't know if the La Brea tar pit monument is actual tar or not. I've never been there, but it was clearly water in the movie. But
yeah, also, Anthony Edwards is like, it's cool. Shh.
yeah, septipus.
It's cool. It's cool.
Well, yeah, and then he's
like hugging her, like no joke, like putting his arm around her, like no,
right.
They're gonna find us one day. Like, do you think they'll find us? And
well, yeah, he's talking about it's like when Superman grabs a lump of coal and he squeezes it to turn into a diamond, and they're gonna find it's some nonsense. And
really
she's like,
bad metaphor at that.
it was
time.
it was a terrible metaphor. And Julie's like, you know what, you're right. Let's just die in this fucking tar pit. And then the movie's over.
Lamar, what if I told you couldn't eat this meal because you have a metaphork?
Get out. This podcast is over.
That's way too meta for me. I don't know. And I couldn't finish that meal. Wow. You ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Weird ending. I was not expecting that.
It was very abrupt, yeah.
Yeah, the credits rolled. Mm-hmm. And that's the question. Denver, are we going to get out of 2022? Promises were made. Are things going to get better? Are people doing things? Are we going to do it? Are we going to die in the tar pits like in Miracle Mile? I don't know. Don't do this to me.
Find out next week on the thrilling conclusion.
Turning an Orson Welles podcast.
Yeah, kind of.
So Westward's going to post it. The pandemonium in the streets of Denver, 16th Street Mall shut down. Trolleys going off track.
I feel like this is real somehow.
It might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you guys think of this movie?
I overall like it.
Yeah.
Personally, the first time I watched it, I was more impressed with it. I knew going into it all these things. So overall, I think this movie is still kind of impressive. But the first time, I went back to, let's go back to something I said before. I was like, is any of this real? And that was the thing. There's so many illusions that like, oh crap, maybe I just said this and maybe this was just a weird phone call I got at a diner and like now the city is in upheaval. It is not. And I kind of like that it immediately addresses that it's like, yeah, like I don't know if this is happening, but things are happening. The movie's short enough. It's like an hour and a half. We watched it on Pluto, so they extended it with a lot of commercials.
Oh my god, so many fucking
What
commercials.
was it? What's that show? I feel like we're not about to.
Yellowstone.
Oh my god! Isn't that isn't that like the prequel to that show? I think like Yellowstone exists, but this is supposed to be
like a spin-off. This
is supposed to be like before Yellowstone.
Yeah. Oh, so Yellowstone is a different show than what we were seeing.
Yeah, there's a show called Yellowstone, and then they were advertising a spin-off of that show.
Dear
or
God.
A
So
prequel
I thought we were seeing a preview for Yellowstone.
Nah, that's another show.
Everyone that I have talked to in my life loves fucking Yellowstone. Listeners are gonna tell you right now, I'm never watching Yellowstone. This all looks super fucking boring.
It does.
I've known Mike long enough that I think he's not going to watch it because he thinks people peed on those stones and that's why they're yellow. But I agree.
It's like
I'm not
yellow
gonna watch
snow,
it. Yeah.
right? That's why it's yellow.
Golden
It's
showers.
It's the pee.
I assume so. Yes. Anything yellow is something that's been peed on.
Correct. Also, going on a t-shirt.
I feel it should. Prove me wrong.
I'm going to take a note here to do this. While Paul is losing his mind.
Oh boy.
We
chaos of this movie
inadvertently
has gotten to me.
advertised for Yellowstone, but not the original. I don't know anything about it outside of that is not the original show.
What if it was, though? What if we don't know? Do you know what that show is about?
Is it about Yellowstone? Is it about peeing?
What if it's not? What if it takes place in like New Jersey? It's about gamblers.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so there is now
2006 gamblers. Like, why do you dress like that? That's all we can afford. We get these like the thrift store.
So there is now a note in my phone that says anything yellow is something that's been peed on. And I'm going to forget what this is for, and I'm going to come back to it years later. So I have a note in my phone from 2014 that says, a hot dog is not a bookmark.
I'm so glad you have these notes.
And I don't know why I wrote it in there.
Keep those forever.
Yeah,
I do.
I have a lot of notes in my notepad. Like a lot of notes, and there's some I read to Mike over the years. And I'm like, so like in 2011, you said it was something like terrible about someone's mom. I was like, I'm not even gonna look it up because I don't think it should be recorded.
Yeah, thank you.
But I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep these things. Anyway,
Lamar,
what did you think of this
Miracle?
movie?
Oh shit.
Lamar, go with the finish the year in a distance.
Has this movie been peed on?
This movie's been beyond several.
Has this movie peed on you?
It's not Yellow Mile. Is it?
Open your eyes.
With the
This movie feels like
the pee, they made it.
Disinfect your contacts.
They swim in the pee.
The pee. We must profit off the pee.
Put it in your ice cube tray.
This movie feels like a. Does it feel like a book adaptation?
I could see that.
Yeah, I could also see
Yeah,
that.
I could definitely see that.
It kind of flows like that.
Does it flow like the pee?
It flows like the pee. Definitely.
I mean, I feel. I mean, that's kind of interesting, Lamar, because I feel if you had the inner workings of a central character's thoughts as written by an author,
Yes.
this could be like super interesting. Because this movie does shift, as I said, in focus. It's like there's these days I was playing trombone. It was fun. I met Poppy. We got some tube steaks. We all love the tube steaks.
It was kind of the believability of the Harry. I totally bought in. This is my first time seeing it. I totally bought into Harry's story, and
I like
kind of
it.
wanted to believe him, but it was kind of unbelievable because
Totally.
of how fast the movie was happening. Like he was just like there's a missile coming, and if I was in a diner in L.A. at 2 a.m, drunk off my ass, just drinking coffee, and this guy was like, "The end of the world is coming."
Yeah,
I'd be
to,
like,
like,
"Whatever, man,
4:06.
whatever."
Right.
Yeah, it was like 4 a.m. I wouldn't believe him either. And there was some people in the cafe who didn't. There's that drag queen we didn't mention. who
Yeah.
was like-
The drag
like,
queen was just
you're
like,
full
you know,
of
Refused
shit.
to leave.
Yeah,
and
they
he
didn't
just
wanna go.
Stood there and probably died, but
No
The
problem.
flight attendant.
The coyote
it
ate
was
him.
revealed that when Tasha was like, "Oh, you must know people at airports." She's like,
yeah.
"It's actually my sister's outfit." And you're like, "Oh man, like, what's?"
well, yeah, and they just kind of left it like, oh, that's sad. Anyway, next topic.
That's why I said it was like Twilight Zone. Like someone has secrets. In a Twilight Zone episode, there was like, I can't remember why it was set up to be, but I think it's like a snowy day. Something happens and they're like, someone is not who they say they are, and it turns out to be an alien. But there's
Yes.
like there's like some investigation, like the who done it, like I'm gonna find out, and then you find out like the alien gets the better of them. But yeah, like that's what this is.
yeah,
sort of.
I like all that aspect of the movie of just believing him, and then you saw actual nuclear strikes, and you're like, holy shit, he was right, and then the world was ending. It's
Right.
like, holy fuck.
So
But the ending, just a quick point, just caught me off guard, and it just ended like that. I kind of like that. This was just a movie that just wrapped up with what it said it was going to be. He said there was going to be nuclear strikes. There were nuclear strikes.
I know, it's crazy.
And it just killed everybody, and that was it. So really, if you're watching this movie, you're watching for pretty much the story of him trying to help people get out, and
Yeah, totally.
there's no winners.
If we
There are no
related
winners.
this to something local, it'd be like, you went to the Denver diner, but oops, you didn't, because now it's shut down. I'm going to put this on a bummer note. And now I think it's a Chase Bank.
I think it is. Yeah,
So,
it is. Yeah.
so at 4 a.m, you went to a
That's
Chase
sad.
Bank ATM, and then boom, nuclear strike. You answered a public phone that was probably urinated on numerous times.
Yeah.
There's probably like TikTok videos of people taking turns urinating on it.
Probably.
Multiple.
Yeah.
The gritty underground of Denver, Colorado, in our TikTok
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah. So, I mean, my take on this movie is like,
Oh, yeah.
like the first time I watched it, when Paul, you and I watched it like a few months ago, I had never heard of it before, which was surprising because there's a lot of people in it.
And you love tube steaks.
And I love a good tube steak. And I didn't know anything about it. And the synopsis like kind of plays into the mystery of like, is this real? Is it not? And it's so this movie's kind of like The Sixth Sense for me. It's like watching it the first time. It's great. Like there's that mystery aspect. You don't really know what's going on. The only reason I watched this a second time was to do this podcast. Like I never need to see this movie again. I think it's great. I think it's really interesting to watch once. But once you know what happens, like it kind of takes the interest out of it for me. So
Okay. I can see that.
My
Because-
yeah.
My weird slight disagreement would be watching it a second time. I could see why we would not watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
But watching it a second time, I actually appreciated things because I'm like, now I know this is actually going to pan out to be real.
That's fair.
Then
You're
I'm
like
like-
watching it with the knowledge of what happens. Like
Yeah.
you're paying attention to different things.
Yeah, I was paying attention to all these side characters and their reactions more than I paid attention to the main character because I kind of knew his quest. But now seeing just like, what would someone do if they were just told this information? and someone's like, this might not be as crazy as you think. I don't have a real answer. Go.
Right. But I mean, like the first time we watched it, up until the last 5 minutes, you genuinely have doubts as to whether or not the world is actually ending. Like there is still, the first time you watch it, they up until that last 5 minutes, they are still casting doubt as to whether or not this is all legit. And that's kind of what made it really interesting for me the first time. And obviously less so the second time, because you do know that it is legit. But yeah, that's a very good point. Like you're watching it in a different context, and you're appreciating the character's actions in a different way, knowing what the outcome is, I guess.
Actually, I want to say another thing. Thinking back to a little bit, sort of to my younger self, I loved rewatching movies like over and over again, like throughout a week or throughout a month, or just like throughout a rotation for throughout a year. Like it depends on the movie. As I said, there's like shifts in tone and kind of focus in this film. Yes, I agree with everything that Mike is saying, that I don't need to really watch it like a third time, or maybe like much later in my life, like a decade from now. Sure, yeah, like I'll totally watch a film and be like, remember this, or maybe less because we record about it. But like this would be a film that 10 years from now, yeah, I'd totally throw on, or if it just happened to be on a streaming list, like we haven't watched that, let's watch it again. But thinking back to some of this movie, everything at the diner, I would totally rewatch. This seems like something I would love. Like the initial panic, the initial phone call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
the diner stuff was cool.
Yeah, like that. Like if that was more the movie, I would watch this movie like way more repeatedly. Younger, yes, and now maybe that I have less time, like a yearly, I would say. But that's not what this film is, and this film departs from that. But everything at the diner that was really fun. It's just kind of relatable.
Speaking of the diners, I just wanted to mention there was a diner shot where it was a cool shot where you can see the entire counter of the diner, and you can easily sit like maybe 50 people at the counter. It's crazy long counter.
No, it was
diner.
huge. Yeah,
I kind of like diners like that, just like the long counter. Everybody just sits there and says,
yeah.
line them up.
I lament the fact that Denver doesn't really have any good diners anymore.
No.
I mean,
You won't see that here.
No, like Pete's. I love Pete's, but it's to me the Denver diners were the Denver Diner and Tom's.
Yeah,
and they're both closed.
Yeah.
Like within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Anyway, sad.
And before Mike was here, Lamar, the white spot.
Yeah, the white spot.
The white spot.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it sounds racist.
Yeah.
I once told a friend, like, we're going to the white spot, and someone said, is that the actual name of the place? And I said, yeah, and their quote was, that's a shame.
Hopefully 2023 can be kind to Denver diners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any wants, realistic wants, before we leave, as RTS for the year?
Once.
Yeah, do we have any resolutions?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't really.
resolutions. Oh, wow.
Just more like wants, like, I hope this happens. Not that you have to, like, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. I'm going to stop eating salt on my cornflakes.
Nah. It's more alcohol for 2023.
Damn right.
We're all getting drunk in 2023.
So the resolution is we have not drunk enough. Solid.
That's yeah.
Well, Denver, Colorado, hopefully you haven't drunk enough. Have you drunk enough?
If not, drink enough.
Do it. It's like a Dr. Seuss tongue twister about unraveling. You know, as always, you could reach out at us on Instagram or on Facebook. You could hit us up at rabbittroopsuckspodcast@gmail.com. You could probably find us on any podcast. I keep telling Mike, I'm like, I don't think people realize this is a podcast. And sometimes people are like, what is a podcast? Well, it's a pre-recorded audio version of this. And if you're hearing it, you know how to get it. And please tell people and assist them and be like, this is not something that's being screened live, that this could be accessed at any point in time. But in 2023, I hope people know more about technology. I hope everyone just chills the hell out. As Lamar said, I guess, Denver, Colorado, you need to drink some more alcohol, as does the world.
And you said chill the hell out. Let's do that as well.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
To 2023, more alcohol and chill the hell out.
And remember, anything that's yellow is because someone peed on it.
Let's get those shirts going on.
Promises were made, and surprise, we're leaving off with, this movie and lots of surprises and guests and surprising you with we're still alive at the end of the year, and that's fantastic. But the only promise I'm going to make is the movie we're coming back with is going to be filmed in Denver, Colorado. So,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
yeah, we're going to open up with that. So hopefully you're sticking with us. Reach out to us, though, if you have, any, especially, I always say seasonal, if you have seasonal films, but I mean seasonal as, like, it's honestly that, like, some kind of spring feel-good film, or I love summer films, I love winter films, and then we get into Halloween and various other things, but any films that you think, clearly we'll have some new guests coming up in the new year. We'll have some repeating guests coming up in the year, and hopefully all of us will be together in the new year. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Any movies anyone wants to see in the new year? Is anyone like, yeah, that's the one?
Like, for this podcast, or movies that are like new movies that are coming out?
I mean, new movies that are coming out in 2023.
I don't know what movies are coming
That's
out
fair.
in 2023.
There's probably like 75 superhero films that we'll never cover on this.
No.
but allude to.
God, no.
Well, as always, we hope you are, 75 bottles deep into, what was it, bottles of Andre.
Yeah, it's $5 bottles of Andre.
When you need a bottle of Andre or 7 and you need to double fist those bottles of Andre, they're there for you.
Yeah.
As always, Rabbit Troop sucks. Happy New Year.
Paul, people have turned this off like 20 minutes
No,
ago.
they didn't. They're so drunk with their bottle of Andre.
I'm gonna use the bathroom right now.
Okay.
That's fine.
And there we go.
Rabbit Troop
Troop
sucks.
sucks.
Bye.